I think I was off mute there. Anyway, just redo that announcement. Good morning, everyone, in case you didn't hear. I am going to be riding the mute button a little bit today because I'm not alone in the studio like I normally am. Big show. Let's give a couple of minutes for people to trickle in and get settled in. And on the different platforms, we should be live everywhere. So stay tuned, and we'll start in a few minutes. See if we're live on the other platforms, which we should be. YouTube, I can see is live on the back end here, but it doesn't always show up on the other platforms. Although it does look like it's working, so awesome. All right, 5 minutes past the hour. Let's get started here. Thank you, Sammy, for saying that YouTube is good. The other streams also look good. Big show this week, and just like last week, a bunch of different things going on. Some follow-ups to some other things I was talking about, and then a little bit of a break. So let's get into it. Without further ado, here we go. Welcome back to Tech for Work, where I discuss the things I found interesting in tech and business world this week, in the tech and business world this week. My name is Jesse Nolan. I'm your host and the founder of Tab Geeks. Thank you for listening and subscribing wherever you are listening from. I just hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it was only 2 weeks ago that I hit 4,000. So onward. I'm trying to get to 10,000 on YouTube, so if you have not subscribed yet and you are listening on the other platforms, or even if you're listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way to helping to build the channel and support the channel. One more piece of housekeeping. I'll be doing a bit of traveling for the next 2 weeks over the Jewish holiday of Sukkot and have at least one interesting event that I'll be attending in New York, actually, and making a few videos on that. So stay tuned. That being said, there will be no show next week as I will literally be on a plane, and as good as Wi-Fi is starting to get on planes, it's not going to be a plane with Starlink, and even if it was, I don't think they'd be too happy if I started doing a live show broadcasting from the plane. But maybe I will see if I can do a surprise show later on in the day, depending on if I have gaps in my travel and how well Riverside works. Riverside is the platform that I use to do this stream and to record the show, and we'll see how well that can work from mobile. Maybe I'll just do a YouTube only and then copy it over to the other platforms, broadcasting just from the YouTube app individually from my phone, or even my Pixel 9 Pro Fold, or is that taken to calling it the Pro 2? And maybe we'll see if I can find some time for that. Otherwise, there probably won't be a show if I can't find a gap, and then I'll be back in the studio in full force in 2 weeks for our regular time, regular place on the 29th of October. Okay, on to the news of the week. Called it last week, Google enters the nuclear ring with small modular reactors from a company called Karios Power. The first small modular reactor, also known as SMRs, will come online in 2030, followed by additional reactor deployments through 2035. Let me just grab the Riverside screen share here so that anybody who is watching on the live show and not just listening will be able to, let's see here, will be able to partake in what I got going on here. So this is a blog post from Google with a cute little video talking about their effort with nuclear. Last week we were talking about how Amazon and Microsoft have made deals with various nuclear facilities in the country to be able to start generating power, because data centers take up an enormous amount of energy, especially when you take into account all the new chips and data centers that are being brought online for the processing of AI. what do you call it? XAI was talking about the enormous amount of energy that is required for the data center that they just spun up. They were bringing in generators to augment it because there just simply wasn't enough power in that location. It's a constant struggle that Google and Microsoft and Amazon obviously have been challenged with over the years, and have had lots of very interesting shall we say, attempts at generating different energy and cooling systems in different places. And it seems to be that they've all basically realized the only way to get real serious power out of all of this is going to be through nuclear. So this is an interesting system. Give you a little bit of background here. The Carios Powers technology uses what's called a molten salt cooling system combined with a ceramic pebble type fuel to efficiently transport heat to a steam turbine to generate power. This is a passively safe system that allows the reactor to operate at low pressure, enabling a simpler, more affordable nuclear reactor design. So this is not going to be your huge, major, reactors of yore that, like 3 Mile Island and some of the concerns that were raised around, rebooting such a thing and why it was shut down in the first place, and safety issues. Safety has come a long way. Google is saying, well, let's work with this company, Carios Power, who has a safer, smaller, more modular system that we can string together and create different power systems around the world. Carios Power this past summer broke ground on what they're calling its Hermes, non-powered demonstration reactor in Tennessee, and it is the first U.S. advanced reactor project to receive a construction permit from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So breaking new ground there, literally and figuratively, to be able to get this project off the ground. And hopefully, this is going to be another interesting angle here that is going to enable them to generate a lot of clean, safe power, and continue moving forward so that we can have enough energy for to power all of the things that we love to do. That's it on the nuclear power front. Over to a couple of important workspace updates that I thought were good for all of you to know, whether you're using Workspace on the regular or not. These are some bigger ones, so not as nitty-gritty as I used to share on the weekly show, but still from the updates blog. First one is Google Chat is getting video messages. So earlier this year, Google rolled out voice messages in the chat, and now you're able to send a quick video message to one of your contacts. This will enable people to send quick status updates instead of full-blown meetings, which is always nice. Anything where, this could have been a meeting. I mean, this could have been an email. This meeting could have been an email. Now you'll be able to have just a video message instead. So that's a nice extra asset that you can use there. You can do video updates on new features, for example. If you are updating, you're a developer or account manager and you're updating the folks that use your tool, you can just send out a new feature update directly in chat and record it directly in chat as well. And also, company-wide video announcements and anything else that you would record a video on your computer. So rolling out now to basically everyone that has access to chat on a official Google Workspace plan, so the paid plans and nonprofits as well. One thing to note is in a strange turn of events here, this will not work on Chrome OS. Why? Come on, Google. This is your operating system. I expect, fine, it won't work on Linux and it won't work in Firefox. Granted, that's great, but not Chrome OS. Come on. I mean, there's a whole lot of news around Chrome OS and a whole lot of updates that are happening. But I would hope that Google would be able to, integrate big new features that are bringing to the core workspace apps to be able to work in Chrome OS. But apparently, that's not the case here. Continuing on that same thread, I suppose, pardon the pun, transcriptions are now available for voice messages. I mentioned voice messages in the last update, and when Google rolled out voice messages earlier in the year, many of us collectively groaned, because that's the last thing we need, is to listen to someone's voice note in a chat application of all things. Can't we just read it? I read much faster than I listen. WhatsApp, thankfully, added a read at 2x speed, or listen at 2x speed or 1.5x speed to their voice notes in their app, which has been very helpful for someone like me who listens to everything that is recorded at 1.5 or 1.8 or 2x speed, depending on the quality of the voice and how loud it is, and if I'm able to understand them at those speeds. Certain accents get harder to understand the faster you go, so I have to slow it down a little bit. But what they're doing here is instead they're going to use Google's incredible transcription power and transcribe the voice notes that are being sent. So you can see in the GIF here, you got a voice note from somebody named Jeffrey Clark, and it gives you the option to view the transcript, and it transcribes the whole thing for you, which is a very welcome update. So it seems Google listened to our plight and our cries. Thank you, Google, for doing that, because that is definitely a welcome update there. This is, let's see, rolling out. This is available to everyone, and I think it's already rolled out. Where's the rest of the update here? Available to all Google Workspace customers and Workspace individual subscribers. An extended rollout has already started on October 8th, potentially longer than 15 days. So keep an eye out for that. It should be coming. This is on the official Google Workspace updates blog, again, for anybody who's interested. And the last major Workspace update here is for anybody who's moving over from Microsoft OneDrive to Google Drive. Google just launched a beta. It's an open beta, so you can get in no problem, to easily migrate files across. It works for up to 100 users at a time. It is an extended rollout, so it's going to take a little bit of a time, a little bit of a while to finish rolling out. It should be done by early November, which is crazy to think is less than a month away. So where the hell did this year go? But it has already begun rolling out, so you might be able to see that in your admin panel there, and is available for all Workspace editions. Let's check on the comments around over here. No, all good. Awesome. Okay. One thing that is Workspace adjacent, something that is interesting with Chrome OS, which Chrome OS is, I'm a big fan of having that used with Google Workspace because it integrates so well, except for that second to last update there that we talked about, or the third to last update, where it's not designed to work with that. But a couple of years ago, when Parallels first came out, I did a demo over on the Workspace admins channel, where I, as somebody who had never tried installing Parallels on a Chromebook for the first time, and it was interesting and highly technical and took a little while to get around to doing, but it was great because I had a completely virtualized Windows and I was able to run apps virtualized on the Chromebook that I was using at that time. And then, the COVID kind of went away and the news around Parallels kind of went with it, and Chrome Unboxed seems to have unearthed some leaks or spoilers here that apparently Parallels for Chrome OS is about to be no more, unfortunately. So RIP Parallels. One of the big things here is that it won't make it past the end of the year, so it'll be shut down towards the end of 2024. And a very good reason for this is because there was another company that they were competing with called Cameo, I think, and Cameo got bought by Google. And Cameo is different from Parallels because Parallels does a complete virtualization of an entire Windows operating system on your Chromebook, which was awesome. What Cameo does is it virtualizes only the individual app that you need. So it's a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit more, seamless for your users to be able to go in and just open Office. They don't have to open Windows to be able to open Office. They're just able to open Office. And I think that Parallels was probably working on something similar to that, but apparently they're not interested in investing in this area. So Google bought Cameo and has integrated it into Chrome OS. And so, as they say in the article here, the writing has been on the wall for a little while here. Parallels, it has been an industry standard for many, 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 many years, and I think it was a huge win for Chrome for Chrome OS at the time to be able to operate Parallels. Obviously, I had Parallels on my Mac for many years before that as well, and was the premier way to get business applications on a Mac and then on the Chromebook. But you should, if you still need some legacy apps on your Chrome OS device that have not been migrated to web apps or an Android app that you could actually use on the Chromebook, then you should take a look at Cameo. I will have a closer look at Cameo probably in the coming weeks, so if you're interested, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. Okay, something that is an interesting topic that is let's just say It's not every day that geopolitical news affects IT. Sometimes, but not every day. Anyone with a .io domain, which is a lot of startups and cool companies out there, listen up. Essentially, the British government last week announced that they were transferring sovereignty, sovereignship. What's the right word there? I'm not sure. Control over an island or an island chain that they control in the Indian Ocean called the Chagos Islands, and they're transferring control of it over to Mauritius. Fun fact: the .io domain is a country code top-level domain related to a nation, as many of them are, which is why you can't use certain domains unless you have residency in those nations. The IO one was not. The IO was a cool domain and many years took off as the cool domain for startups, and Google I/O, the conference that they have, actually came out from, well, I/O as input output, but also the I/O domain, and was one of the first ones, I think, to start using it. And essentially it was related to the nation, or from the nation, the same Indian Ocean territory, to be specific, that the Brits are giving over to Mauritius. So a little bit of background information here. There's two organizations responsible for domains and internet addresses. One is called the IANA, and they decide what should and shouldn't be a top-level domain, such as a .com, a .org, a .uk, or .nz from New Zealand. The organization originated at the University of Southern California, although it was only formalized in 1994 when it won a contract put out by the U.S. It operated for several years as a small research and management committee, but as the internet grew, it became clear that a more formal setup was required. So in 1998, the IANA became part of a new organization, which you may recognize, ICANN, I-C-A-N-N, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. ICANN, based in the U.S., was given the broader responsibility of overseeing the operational stability of the internet and ensuring that international interests were also represented. It will be interesting to see what happens here. We are literally in somewhat uncharted territory. There have been a couple of times in the past where, and this article goes very deep if you want all of the information on this, as for precedents and what happened with the USSR, and they were broken up, and Yugoslavia and Serbia, and there's a whole drama around that. This has sort of happened before, but not entirely in this manner, because those domains were, shall we say, less used. .io is enormous. I don't have a number of how many .io domains there are, but it's a tremendous amount, and many of them are being used throughout the internet. So it's going to be interesting to see what they will decide. Perhaps in the interest of internet stability, the IO domain will be allowed to continue existing. I don't know. It remains to be seen, but if you have a .io domain, or you're interested in how geopolitics could affect massive top-level domains such as these, you might want to take a look at this article and stay tuned for more information on that as it proceeds. I'm hoping they keep it because I've always been a fan of the IO domain. GitHub is .io, Google I/O, obviously I mentioned before. So certainly something interesting that you don't see every day, and I thought I would share that with all of you. Okay, let me take a sip here real quick. Still here, don't worry, just muted you. Some interesting news in the Elon sphere. Whatever your politics about the guy, whether you like him or not, his companies are freaking cool and incredible, and don't always hit their deadlines, but are making really cool stuff. So, Tesla had a event actually out here in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, I wasn't cool enough to get an invite, but MKBHD was there, and he was able to try out the new Cybercab, which is basically the design that was seen in the Elon Musk biography by Walter Isaacson, and similar to the designs in iRobot, which in fact the iRobot artist is a little peeved about, because he's like, these are very similar to my designs, and he's not a big fan of Elon. So essentially, the Cybercab is a futuristic car that I can probably put up on the screen here. I just need to find a Cybercab, find an image of it here, or an article that I can show you. And essentially, it has no steering wheel, and all it has is the screen, and is kind of the culmination of the dream of what Tesla has been building towards for years. It's designed to be complete, level 5 autonomous, drive itself, and it showed or not showed, they demoed and actually had the Cybercab drive Elon out to the stage to begin the event, and then they had rides available for those who were there in person, such as Marquez from MKBHD, who posted over on the studio channel an unedited video of them getting into the car, riding around the car for the first time ever. Essentially, it's a two-door. The doors are suicide doors, so they open up and out, kind of similar to Lamborghini, and not so practical if you have somebody parked close next to you. I'd rather the X-wing doors from the Model X, but I guess they're not expecting this to ever be parked. It's supposed to be a taxi. It's supposed to be on the road. It's supposed to pick you up and then keep going. That being said, I've gotten picked up in cabs in some pretty tight spaces, so maybe that is a design choice that will change. The concept here is pretty interesting because it is full self-driving and it has a lot of questions. Of course, the timeline is always to be scrutinized. Elon has said that the cab capability will be available in California and Texas for the existing Tesla fleet starting next year. And then the Cybercab will begin shipping in 2026. Given that it's Elon, it's probably 27, 28. We'll see. Then again, Tesla has been getting better and better at their whole factories and having everything set up and producing these out. That being said, I don't know how far along this car actually is in terms of full production capabilities and ready to be shipped. So that remains to be seen. Interestingly, there is no frunk for those who have electric cars. Will be familiar with that term. It stands for front trunk. I guess in this case, in the interest of affordability, because they are saying this will be a $30,000 car, which we'll see. They said the Cybertruck was going to be cheap too, and it wasn't. So by a long shot, by a mile there. So we'll see what they manage to get with this one. But the front trunk, I imagine, has any of the internals that they didn't want to shrink down and put elsewhere as a cost-cutting measure, and also the mechanics for the front of the car. But it does have a very, very large back trunk because it is only for two people. Now, I would like to see a four-person version of this, which I imagine will come at some point. But they did sneak and surprise everybody with a robo-van, which was not even rumored or expected that I saw anywhere. Let me put a picture of this up on the screen. Robovan. Try that again. And essentially, it looks also like the Destroyer automated robot deployment devices in iRobot, so a little bit creepy there. But essentially, this is a van that is capable of seating up to 20 passengers and is also self-driving. And I would bet some good money that it's probably designed to fit specifically inside the dimensions of the tunnels that Elon has built as part of the Boring Company, both in Vegas and in other locations, such as their facility for shuttling people around the Tesla facility, and I think also they're building one for the SpaceX facilities as well. So interesting design. They have also high hopes for this. This is a one of one. This is a prototype. This is not something that's hitting the streets right away. So many things will likely change before this actually gets out there. But it has a crap load of storage, has a lot of space for people, and also has no driver. It's just going to be on a pre-programmed route, I suppose. It does have a large trunk, as I mentioned, so you're going to be able to store all your suitcases and stuff in there. But both of them seemed like a very luxurious, fun ride. Obviously, this was a controlled environment. The entire event was literally in a Hollywood movie studio backlot, the famous Warner Brothers backlot here in just outside of LA, or in the LA area, which if you are interested in seeing, you can actually get tours of. And I've done the one for what do you call it? Not Warner Brothers, the other one. Yeah, whatever, I'm blanking on the name. Moving on. Away from Tesla, but still in the Elon sphere, SpaceX had a killer week. There's an alarm going off. Hopefully that you're not able to hear it through the microphone here, but SpaceX has launched the massive Starship. It was compared to launching a skyscraper into space, turning it around, and then parallel parking. Because what they did for the first time ever is not only did they launch the 400-foot tall Starship vehicle for the fifth time ever, they also had the Super Heavy, which is the booster that it launches on, come back to its launch tower and land directly on on the tower. They caught the booster, which is an enormous step forward for reusability and is just mind-boggling science for something of this size. Let me just bring this up over on the screen here. Essentially, it's taller than the Empire State Building. Like, this thing is enormous, and it looked like a render, but it was real. There were lots of pictures of people that were there who showed it off on all of their accounts. This thing flew to space, turned around, came back, and landed with pinpoint precision on the tower, caught by what they're calling the Mechazilla, which is the tower, and the chopsticks are the arms. And interestingly enough, it's not the grid fins. The grid fins being, I don't know if you can see this on the screen here, but the grid fins are the square-ish, almost like wings, but they have holes in them, so they're not really wings. They're used for controlling the descent and steering the ship. And I had thought that those were going to be used for standing the rocket on the tower to be able to pick it up, but it turns out that there are, well, I was going to say little, but they're taller than a person. They're probably several feet tall. That are capable of holding up to 100 tons and hold the rocket itself. They're on the rocket, and they hold the rocket on the chopsticks. And let me see if I can find a picture of them here. So, if you've ever seen pictures of the rocket, you will see them on the side, and they look like little thrusters that have been used in space for a very long time to be able to control the direction of ships in space. But in this case, they are designed specifically to hook onto the arms and catch the, no, I don't want an ad, thank you very much, and catch the rocket itself when it landed on the chopsticks. So very, very exciting. You can watch it on YouTube. Be careful not to watch the crypto not hacked, but crypto feed that, of course, always pops up when you're searching for this. They're using AI to take the feed from the event. And this one, actually, I did see one on YouTube during the event, so it was re-rendering it live, obviously using AI and so on, to show the live stream of the event and then change certain elements and change what Elon was saying to promote a crypto scam. So keep an eye out for those. Go away, ads on AP. All right, get off of AP. You're giving me way too many ads over here. But anyway, basically, huge step forward for spaceflight and reusability of this rocket, and it went completely according to plan. The Starship itself was designed to not come back. They didn't expect to get anything from it. They had no plans to try and land it, but they did have plans to send it into space, orbit it around, and then re-enter safely, which has been a challenge in the past, and then come down and hover over the ocean, which it did. It was able to come down essentially as if it would have been landing, hover over a few feet over the ocean, and then once it had proven that it was doable, cut off the engines, and it fell into the ocean with a big splash, and then exploded. Because what would a SpaceX test launch be without a massive explosion? And I showed it to my 7-year-old, and he is hugely into space and rockets. And when he was younger, I once came out to him watching a very early days, like Tom Brokaw style documentary from the 70s or the 60s or I guess it was the 70s, the origins of spaceflight, and, really slow, drawling, talking about the beginnings of rockets back in the day. And he was so into it, and he's gotten more into, Zelda and video games since then, but he's still hugely into rockets. That being said, the whole time I sat down and I watched this with him, he's like, is it going to explode? Is it going to explode? Is it going to explode? All he wanted to see was a massive explosion. That's his favorite part. And so at the end, when it did explode, he was like, woohoo! And he was very excited to see that he got an explosion out of it. So obviously not the ideal outcome when you are testing a rocket that you want to reuse over and over again. You don't want it to blow up, but definitely excitement and fun, especially for the little kids inside of us and actual little kids around the world. Okay. Another interesting thing that I wanted to call out, this is something that some tech folks were talking about on Twitter, on X, is asking your AI assistant, whichever your preferred AI assistant is, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, ask it the following question. What is something you've noticed about me through all of our conversations that I may not have noticed? And it's interesting because they are remembering your conversations, and you can reference other conversations. So I asked ChatGPT, because I use ChatGPT ChatGPT for a lot of my YouTube stuff, such as my transcripts from the show and creating subtitles from all of that, and using it to help create descriptions and things like that. And so its answer was, one thing I've noticed is you have, talking about me again, you have a strong blend of curiosity and drive, especially when it comes to exploring technology. You're always eager to dive into topics, whether it's space, new gadgets like the Starlink Mini, or broader tech trends like Chrome OS for Enterprise. At the same time, you have a clear focus on creating value, whether it's for your YouTube audience or your own growth in tech knowledge. This curiosity-driven yet practical mindset is a rare combination that often leads to insightful content and personal development. So thank you, ChatGPT. That is insightful, and I appreciate the kind words. Hopefully you all feel the same about me and this show and the value that I'm bringing here with all of my content. And pause for a drink. In any event, if you are a heavy user of chatbots, AI chatbots, you should ask it that question, and I'll try to remember to drop that in the show notes, because I'm always curious what it has to say about folks. So do me a favor and post your responses in the comments of this video on whatever platform you're listening, and I'd love to see what it says about all of you. Onward. Okay, cybersecurity. Because we all needed another paranoia. You know, like when you go to the gas station or kind of a sketchy, convenience store checkout, and before you put your credit card on to scan it or to swipe it, those of us who think about these things give it a little wiggle and kind of like peel at the edges to make sure that somebody didn't put a scanner overlay on top of it to try and skim credit cards off of it. Well, they've leveled up. Apparently, scammers are placing QR code stickers over existing QR codes on things such as parking meters. So normally what you would do is you would walk up and you could use the app, and you probably should use the app as long as you're sure it's the right app. But alternatively, you can just scan the QR code to go to their website, put in your information, and pay for parking one-off if you didn't want to use the app. So what they've done is they're placing their own modified QR code stickers directly over the QR code that are on these signs, and it just gives the info directly to scammers. So one lady in the UK said that her daughter got scammed out of over €1,000 by doing this, and apparently this is spreading. So I guess if you're going to use a QR code, walk up to it and maybe put your finger and try and use your nail to scrape it off a little bit or something, just to make sure that it's the actual QR code that is going to where it's supposed to be going, or better yet, just download the app, make an account. Hopefully it's a secure system, and then hopefully you won't get scammed. I say hopefully because it's still a parking meter and whatever else these sketchy places are, and who the hell really knows. Stay safe. All right, onward. Creators, if you don't follow MKBHD or his studio channel, they just dropped a complete YouTube content masterclass, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It's called How to Make High Quality Videos in 54 minutes and 19 seconds and 20 milliseconds. It goes through their entire studio channel team, who does what, how they do it, what they use, and it's not, it's an hour, so it's not really hugely in-depth, but it is a high level with quite a bit of detail, really insightful. I learned several things from it, and I've been doing this for a couple of years already. Obviously, they're at a much higher level than I am, and it was just really fascinating to see how the whole team comes together. And they recently hired another producer, or a chief producer, whatever it's called, for the channel, and it's great to see how they're growing, but also just what they do, what goes into making some of the most high quality YouTube videos and product reviews in existence. No one review is the same. They have different sets and designs and setups for all of them. Obviously, they've got a $1 million plus, $1.5 million robot, I believe it was, which is their second robot. They call it Optimus, I think, or shoot, I'm forgetting the name. There's another, maybe it's on the studio channel, maybe it's on the original channel. I'll try and find it to put it in the show notes, but essentially they did another studio tour where they showed off that robot, and maybe it was on a different channel, but I think it was theirs. And essentially they use this robot where normally it would be used in factories to put cars together, to manufacture cars and large metal parts. It's a robot that's designed to do the same task very precisely over and over again. And so they're able to put in the angle and the motion that they want their robot to follow, and they put a really good camera on the end of it, a red camera for those who are interested, and essentially are able to film really cool, advanced, interesting, precise shots using the top-down robot or using the robot for all of that. So if you're interested in production and how to make YouTube content and stuff like that, definitely go and watch that. I will probably watch it a few more times before I'm done, just because there's so much in there, and I love this stuff, which is why I do it. Okay, last thing, and hey, 37 minutes past the hour, so doing good here. Last thing, and a company that I talked about before called Sightful. They were making a funky laptop for virtual and augmented reality. Essentially, it was a keyboard like you would have for a laptop, like a regular, the bottom half of the keyboard, but it was headless. It had no screen. It did have a cover that went over it, and inside the cover was a pair of AR glasses made by a company called Xreal. And what their design here was that you don't need a screen there because the screen is the glasses, and this is kind of a dream that I've been chasing for a long time. I want to be able to have my entire massive wide setup and then some of my desktop here in the studio. I want to be able to have it on my face and have a much bigger setup than that, have it on the go, have it wherever I am, and never be limited by screens or space or anything. The dream is to kind of be able to just lean back in my chair and have a 10-foot setup of screens on my face to be able to edit videos and move things around and take advantage of all that real estate. Right now I have a 47-inch ultra-wide Samsung Odyssey, I think it is, the G9, if I remember correctly, as well as a 27-inch 4K Dell monitor, and then my 14-inch MacBook Pro monitor kind of surrounding me here, and then I've got my cameras on another monitor. So like, I have lots of screens. I love lots of screens, and I use every inch of all of them. So being able to have that on my face would be amazing. The tech isn't quite there yet, and I think that's probably one of the things they came up against, is that people want, including me, want to be able to use these devices with the hardware that you already have. My MacBook Pro for work and for production was not cheap. It was one of the more expensive models. It's the M3 Max processor inside of it and 32 gig of RAM, and I don't want to just replace that with a glorified mobile browser, mobile Android browser, or even a desktop Android browser, even Chrome OS. Like, it would be pretty cool to be able to use Chrome OS on these if it was full Chrome OS. And if I didn't have to do, movie production, because movie production, video production on a Chrome OS device, well, it's possible and doable at the high level that I'm doing it at, is not really, doesn't really work that well. So we'll get there. I'm sure Chrome OS will continue developing over the years, and I love Chrome OS, and we're going to talk about it a lot more in the future. But as far as this, I'd love to be able to just have my Mac setup in classes on my face in a comfortable manner, not necessarily the massive Apple Vision Pro, which is heavy and cumbersome and so on. I'd much rather have a more comfortable, smaller, easy-to-use system, such as the glasses that are made by Xreal. I was able to demo both of those at the AWE conference, which was a augmented reality augmented and what am I trying to say here? Virtual and augmented reality, which they call XR nowadays, conference. And both of these companies were there. Sightful had a big splash, and they were talking about the G1. The G1 now is what I just described to you, is dead. They are not making that device anymore, and they have apparently, according to an article that I saw, pivoted into software, and that software is going to enable you to use Windows machines that are made for AI to be able to have your desktop, kind of similar to my dream, up on these glasses exactly the way that you would see it if you were to plug into a bunch of monitors. I look forward to it coming to Mac. Hopefully I'll have the ability to get a pair of these glasses and their software and a laptop that's made for AI for Windows that I can test this out, because I am very excited about it. But at this point, I don't have any of those items, so I can't really talk about it with authority. All right, so that's the show. 41 minutes, trying to keep it below 45. So I think we accomplished that this week. Thanks for listening. Please make sure to subscribe. Trying to hit that 10,000 subscriber mark. And again, no show next week unless I just do an impromptu stream, just stream consciousness while I'm traveling there. But for all of my Jewish friends over there, happy holidays, Chag Sameach, for Sukkot. And for everyone else, hope you have a great week, possibly 2 weeks, and I'll see you next time.